Over the summer, I investigated a factory farm owned by Tyson Foods. It was a heavily secured facility with tall fences, locked doors, and security guards patrolling throughout the night. It took us several days of trying before we even made it into one of the barns. But once we did, I understood why they were so paranoid about anyone getting in. What was happening to these animals was horrific. Nearly all of the chickens were suffering from severe mobility issues. They could barely walk, and many couldn't even stand. They would flap their wings desperately, trying to get the leverage they needed to get up, but it was no use. Their wings would hit the feces-covered ground and become bloodied and bruised. A lot of the chickens were also on their backs dying. This is a condition so common in meat chickens on factory farms that it even has a name. It's called keel over and die syndrome. It's when meat chickens, who have been bred to grow so large so quickly, succumb to their own weight and have a heart attack. They end up on their backs, dying, struggling to breathe. They die slow, excruciating deaths. Another horror about this facility was that nearly everything and everyone was covered in flies. They were crawling on the chickens' backs, necks, and faces, putting them at an increased risk of fly strike, which is when an animal gets eaten alive by maggots. We decided to rescue one of the hens, later named Hannah, who couldn't walk and was being particularly attacked by the flies. I lifted her into my arms and I promised her that everything was going to be okay. But as soon as I did, I received a message on my walkie-talkie from our lookout. A security guard was circling the barn we were in his truck. As you can imagine, my heart started pounding. I began looking around the barn, trying to think of a place where we could hide or a way we could get out if the security guard came in. And I held Hannah close, because I didn't want to break the promise that I had literally just made. Eventually, after the longest couple minutes of my life, the security guard drove away. We grabbed one other chicken who was collapsed on the ground, and we left as quickly as we could. On our way off the property, we hid in the tree line so we were covered by the shadows. I vividly remember thinking about the irony of the situation. We were rescuing abused animals, and we were the ones hiding. We were hiding in the shadows, while animal abusers walked freely in the light. They should have been hiding from us, but we were hiding from them. When I think about why, I think it all comes down to money, to greed. Our society is so centered around financial gain that our government and our laws ignore and even exempt major corporations from facing consequences for their violent actions. Our society is so centered around financial gain that our government and our laws ignore whistleblower reports and even prosecute the people who expose these injustices and rescue the victims. Corporations like Tyson are powerful, not because what they are doing is right, but because what they are doing produces profits. And because of greed, the exploitation of animals, both human and non-human, has been accepted, ignored, and protected throughout human history. But it is time to face it and end it once and for all. Animals deserve to be free from the exploitation imposed by human society. But that will only happen if we come together and fight for it. Yes. I want you all to think about all of the animals suffering right now on factory farms. All of the animals having their throats slit in slaughterhouses. All of the innocent beings living and dying in pain. They scream out for our help in the cover of darkness. Their cries muffled by stone walls and closed doors. Their torture is protected by rich and powerful corporations that create fear with no trespassing signs and the looming threat of felony charges. We stand on the sidelines and we do exactly what these corporations want us to do. We make excuses for our inaction. We are too busy, too tired, too scared. Meanwhile, they writhe in pain, gasp for air, and finally grow still in death. And they will never care why we couldn't be there, because we were their only hope. And we failed them. We have to do better. We have to. We have to put our excuses aside and place our lives, our bodies, our freedom on the line to protect them. We have to.
Yes.
As many of you know, Rose's Law was named after Rose, a beautiful disabled hen who was rescued from a factory farm in 2018. Rose lived with me for the majority of her life, and it is for her that I will fight for Rose's Law, for every tear. But the freedom from exploitation is especially important, because once animals are no longer used for financial gain, there will be no reason, regardless of how unjustifiable that reason might be, to abuse and kill them in mass. There will be no reason to protect this torture. So let's come together and fight animal exploitation, because if we put animal exploitation behind us, maybe we can finally start to see non-human animals as equals. Maybe we can finally live in peace. So let's take action in every way that we can. Let's ask legislators to pass Rose's Law and march to the streets like we're doing today. Let's chain ourselves to animal abusing institutions to stop them from operating as usual. Let's walk onto factory farms proudly with our heads held high and rescue the animals from exploitation. Everything could stay the same. Or we could leave our comfort zones behind and do everything we can to change it. The choice is yours. But I, for one, hope that we will all come together and fight until every animal is safe and happy and free. Thank you.